The words we use shape our experience. We don't often choose our words carefully. There are moments when we are more sensitive to our word choices. Moments when we know our words will have an immediate and lasting impact, usually one that we deem to be less than desirable. This is as our word choices relate to the power that others have to affect our life situation. What we fail to realize is that the most influential agent of our fate is ourself, which results in our being careless with the language we choose in the most mundane moments of our day, moments which we do not consider to be of consequence. Our lack of care in word choices, the vocabulary we choose to use, not just in our mouths, but in our minds, has a profound and definitive impact on our behaviors, expectations of self and others, and energy which comes back to us in degrees of benefit or ruin. This is such a subtle nuance within our nonchalant conversation and monologues, such a trivial thing in our thought processes, that we do not give it due consideration. And for our mindlessness we do pay heavy consequences, as slow to develop and manifest as they may be. So subtle are these consequences that only the most aware and mindful among us even know that this shaded effect is occurring. When one practicing magic utters a curse or delivers a mystical soliloquy, it is referred to as a spell. This label, spell, is used because the words we utter hold power. They carry intention to every living thing in our sphere, and these intentions, even the vibrations sounded by their utterance, influence thoughts, words, and deeds in our sphere and beyond, affecting time and space in ways which we may never witness. This is the power of words. The old children saying goes, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." This is wishful thinking and serves as an ineffective rebut to those hurtling insults our way. But we all know that, while we would like for this to be true, the words of others affect us more deeply than sticks and stones ever could, and for much longer a time. In some instances, for a lifetime. We think so little of what we say, that more often than not, we speak without any care for what comes out of our mouths, thinking that we can always wipe clean the slate with a simple apology, or that our words amount to little more than trite banter. And the carelessness in our choice of words plays itself out in a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy which we ourselves set into motion. And it's not just the hurtful jabs that we make toward others, nor the outright slanderous comments we make behind others' backs or, for those less tactful, directly to their face, but the simple choice of vocabulary which shapes the course of our life, emotions, actions, and perspective. The ancients strove to be intentional in thought, compassionate in word, and mindful in deed as a state of being, because they were aware that their path was shaped by these things. The path of peace which they were responsible to create, and by which they would increase their own personal evolution towards spirituality, oneness with all creation, with the All-Father, the source of all things material and immaterial, which is the purpose of life, the reason for our being. These qualities are attained by intentionality, and cannot be realized if they are approached haphazardly, allowing whatever thoughts to enter one's mind, as if we have no control over them, permitting careless words to exit our mouths, spraying like shrapnel, landing wherever they happen to and hurting anyone in their way, and acting, or more likely, reacting, in thoughtless ways, causing untold damage and destruction. With this as the baseline for how one should think, speak, and act in order to realize growth along the path of their own personal evolution, and serving as a caution to the regression of the same, the words we choose should be thought of as sacred. The words out of our mouths should reflect thoughtfulness and compassion. They should be said with all sincerity, so that anything one says serves as a promise of character, a promise which one fulfills without fail. This is the weight of one's words, the responsibility one has to those around them who are affected, and the sacredness which one should give to the words they choose. To demonstrate the weight which the words we choose carry, let's present a few concepts here which ultimately manifest unintended consequences in the shaping of our life. I'm so embarrassed. We express this sentiment to others in our presence when we are caught in a gaffe. When a situation in which we find ourselves doesn't work out as expected. When our intentions are not fulfilled. This expression professes an insecurity, whether genuine or not. If this insecurity is genuine, then it reveals one's deep sense of self-consciousness. It reinforces one's narcissistic paradigm. If ingenuine, it reveals a duplicitousness of character, that which is intended to present false humility while hiding contemptuous arrogance. It reinforces one's deceitfulness. Either way, this phrase and the concept it represents stunts our personal evolution and negatively influences others toward the same. Words that carry a negative connotation which find their way into our language, especially when used as self-descriptors or as excuses for our lack of effectiveness and relevance, serve to create a subconscious platform from which we operate and hold perceptions. I am lazy. I am worthless. I am a failure. The subject, the word I, personifying the objects, lazy, worthless, and a failure. The being verb am, equating the subject and object as being synonymous, of the same fundamental nature in each instance. As if to say, the essence of my being is laziness, or worthlessness, or failure. Negative self-perceptions are not uncommon to the human condition, but they can serve a positive purpose. If one uses these feelings of inadequacy to motivate change and inspire personal evolution. But living in these adverse self-assessments and accepting them as fundamental to our nature can initiate a downward trajectory in our relationships, efforts, and growth extending well into the future, affecting every aspect of our life in a destructive way. Words which degrade us are defeatist. Words which propagate fear weaken us, diminish our resolve, and lessen our confidence and trust in the forces of nature and the cosmos to sustain us. Focusing our attention and thoughts on a state of poverty, illness, and/or decline perpetuates these patterns in our life. Many speak of growing up in poverty, but not realizing at a young age that they were poor. Their focus was on possibilities, joys, and people in their lives as blessings. Their focus was on what they had, not on what they lacked. They did not realize until later in life that they grew up below the prescribed poverty line. Once people growing up in adverse conditions reach an age of awareness and maturity, they encounter a crossroads, an intersection of perspectives which shapes their life for the foreseeable future, that of accepting and continuing in the lifestyle of their upbringing, often growing to resent it and others who contribute to it, causing a destructive mindset of misery and hatred, or one of gratefulness and utility, wherein they climb out of their wretched situation, using those conditions as the motivation to improve themselves and their environment, loving those in their life who showed glimpses of hope, love, and encouragement, and utilizing those skills which they developed from their state of lack, survival skills which may be useful in their ascent to abundance and plenty. Then, using their success to enrich the lives of those less fortunate, especially those who come from similar circumstances. This scenario reminds me of a story told by Frank Abagnale, a character in the 2002 film, Catch Me If You Can, played by the wonderful Christopher Walken, told to his son, Frank Abagnale Jr., played by the magnificent Leonardo DiCaprio. In this story of two mice, drowning in a pitcher of milk, the one mouse, struggling to survive, became discouraged and gave up, succumbing to the ever-increasing volume of milk, and ultimately drowning, while the other, remaining positive and utilizing his skills, decided to swim and swim, churning that milk into butter, and ultimately climbing out of the pitcher. In this story, the two mice, suffering the same exact experience, chose two opposing perspectives and achieved two opposing outcomes. Sharing this same motif, one of my favorite annotated pictures is of skydivers in tandem, the novice on bottom and the expert on top. The two skydivers, sharing the exact same situation and conditions, yet having two completely different experiences. The expert of complete bliss, the novice of complete terror, we're either the beneficiary or victim of their own self-generated perspective. A mindset which significantly affects a multitude of areas in our life, creating the conditions for the compounding of solutions and opportunities, or for that of failure and frustration, is the actionable approach of a positive or negative perspective. To clarify, say that your child asks if they can go outside and play for a while, but approaching weather appears to be potentially adverse. You could give, in effect, the same response but colored by positivity or negativity. A positive response would be to say something to the effect of, "Some stormy weather might be rolling in, so it's best if you play on the back porch and stay close." By contrast, a negative response would be to say, "No, you can't play outside because of the possibility of bad weather." In both scenarios, the child does not end up getting to play outside, but in the first, they are told what they can do. In the second, they are told what they can't do. Where the one gives an avenue for possibilities and potential, the other presents inhibitions and constraints. Seeking options, like traversing a maze, frames our mind toward creativity and possibilities. This mindset, as a platform from which we reference life and its navigational challenges, facilitates forward motion and growth, that of our own personal evolution. The opposite forms a cage of negativity and restrictions, keeping us from seeing the infinity of possibilities available to us. Negativity has been proven in studies to cause damage to key structures in our brain which regulate memory and emotions. This isn't limited to spoken words, but to the thoughts which we entertain as well. Positivity, on the other hand, increases functioning in all physical systems, enhances emotional stability, and improves our social interactions and relationships. And the irony here is that regardless of chemical processes and levels in our system, we have a degree of control over our mental state, a choice between positivity and negativity. We can take charge of our thoughts, words, and deeds, which so strikingly dictate outcomes and consequences in our life. We have been given reign over our own fate, the energies which we radiate to those in our sphere, affecting those which are returned to us. Regulating our own thoughts is like adjusting the radio dial, attuning us to specific frequencies. When we radiate love, joyousness, wisdom, and power to the world around us, we tune into those frequencies, and those same energies increase within us, flooding into us from all external sources within our sphere, those in our immediate radius, as well as those of the planet, and, ultimately, the cosmos. The same can be said for the negative frequencies we radiate and receive into our life. Our thoughts, which initiate all words and deeds we allow into our world and which we share with those around us, are the basis from which all things come to us. As the Buddha said, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The thoughts we hold create the world we experience. This world we create for ourselves and others in our sphere is a direct result of the words we use.